Hey, this is Safli from LickNRiff.com, and it's time for another video in the beginner series. In this video we're going to talk about the 10 most common beginner guitar mistakes and obstacles. Then we're going to check out some ways in which we can avoid, correct, and even eliminate them completely. Now, what I'm going to try to do is provide you with a solid foundation for your practicing routine, for your playing, and for your progress on the instrument. Because I know that beginners have a lot to take in. Chords, scales, embellishments, techniques, hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, how to produce sound, how to use both your hands at the same time. It's a lot to take in, not to mention theory and music in general. So what you need is a good foundation, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want to try and give you that foundation. Now, this video is going to be divided into two parts. Mistakes 1 to 5 will tackle the physical aspect of guitar playing, which is just technical. It's just technical stuff that you need to be aware of and pay attention to when you play, so that's easier to correct, because once you know the right way to do things, then it's a lot easier to play and be comfortable on the guitar and produce a better sound. Okay? Now, mistakes and obstacles 6 to 10, they're going to tackle the psychological aspect. Okay, and that's a lot more important, because the psychological aspect has an impact on everything. Okay, and it has an impact on the way you see yourself on the instrument, and the way that you see the instrument and your practicing routine and your own playing. So it's a lot more important, and that's why the psychological aspect of playing, I kept it for later, okay? Because we're going to tackle the easier stuff first, okay? The psychological obstacles are things that you might not even be aware of, okay? So we're going to talk about that later. Let's start with the easier stuff. Okay, mistakes and obstacles 1 to 5, techniques, let's go. The first mistake and obstacle is this. String buzzing. That's the most frustrating thing. You want to produce a sound, you want to hear a note, you don't want to hear noise. Okay? You want to hear a clear sound. Okay? You don't want to hear, okay, this. So, how do you correct that? It's actually very easy, because it has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with how strongly you apply the pressure on the neck. It has to do with finger position. Okay, let's say that I wanna play fret number 5. Okay, fret number 5. I'm playing the 4th string. Okay, now fret number 5. I want to put my finger between the steel frets, between steel frets 4 and 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's where fret 5 is. Okay? Now, if I put my finger at the beginning of the fret, closer to the 4th steel fret, then the string will buzz no matter how strongly I will apply pressure. I'm choking the neck right now, and the string is still buzzing. Why? Because I'm closer to the 4th fret instead of closer to the 5th fret. Okay? You want to put your finger at the middle to the end of the fret. Okay? If this is fret 4, steel fret 4, and this is steel fret 5, then I want to be here, not here. If this is fret 4, I want to be here, near fret 5. So if I know that my nose is the finger, so I look funny, but you get my point. So if I put my finger right between them, right here, then it will produce good sound. And the closer I am to fret 5, to steel fret 5, the cleaner the sound will be, and the easier it will be for me to press. Okay? If I'm closer to the 4th fret, then the string will begin to buzz. Now I'm right next to the 5th fret. Now I'm going back, middle of the fret. beginning of the fret. Okay, and I'm choking the neck. I'm really applying pressure. So you see, it has nothing to do, not nothing, but it has very little to do with force. Okay, so you just put your finger on at the middle to the end of the fret. That's all there is to it. The middle to the end of the fret, and it works every time. Okay, let's try it at the 12th fret, for example. Now I'm closer to the 11th fret. The string is buzzing. Now I'm at the middle of the fret, and now I'm at the end of the fret. Okay? The middle to the end of the fret, that's the sweet spot. Okay? And if you put a chord on, then you'll notice that if the chord is playing correctly, and you hear all of those notes and nothing is buzzing, then you'll see that the barring finger is right next to the fret, and this finger is also closer to the fret. This is in the middle of the fret. This is closer to the fret. Okay, I'm talking about the steel frets. So it's always the middle to the end of the fret you're aiming for. Okay, that's it. Taken care of, string buzzing. As I told you, it's not necessarily easy. You still need to get used to that. For example, in soloing, okay, you want to always be playing the middle to the end of the fret. Okay, all of these were middle to the end of the fret, position-wise. Okay, that's why nothing buzzed. So that's all I'm gonna say about buzzing, and I'll try not to say the word fret again. Okay? Now, that's mistake and obstacle number 1, taken care of. Moving on. Number 2, wrist position. I'm talking about this wrist and also this wrist. But this wrist plays a lot more, it has more problems because you almost never see someone play like this. But you see a lot of people play like this. And that's not healthy. It can cause wrist pain, it can cause tendon pain, and it's really not healthy. You want to keep your hand as straight as possible. Okay, if I'm playing, I want to keep the hand as straight as possible. Now, if, for example, I'm putting on a barred chord, then my hand, I'm actually lifting my arm and I'm lifting my elbow a little, so the hand would be a bit more straight. Because if I'm doing this, then my wrist is going to hurt eventually. And it happens a lot quicker than you think. And if your wrist hurts, stop playing. Okay, stop playing and start practicing. Just practice putting on normal chords, open position chords, until you get used to having your wrist straight. Okay, you want to move your fingers, not your hand. Okay, and if you need to move your hand, just move it a little, back and forth. Okay, this is good, 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 this. Okay, this is, if you feel pressure here and here, then it's not good. Okay, you want to keep it as loose as possible. If you're doing this, you're not loose. Okay, so for example, I'm playing chords. See, straight hand. Okay, now I'm moving it a little. Okay, but it's not this. Now let's try barred chords. Okay, look at my wrist. You see, it's still smooth. It's not a hard angle. So if I'm doing this, it's wrong. Just try to keep your wrist straight as possible. Okay, and if you need to, lift your shoulder a little. Lift your shoulder, lift your elbow. Okay, and see, it has impact. Okay, you need to use your entire arm. Now, again, this isn't easy to get used to. You need practice. Everything takes practice. But it's a lot better to practice and get frustrated at not succeeding for like a couple of days instead of hurting your arm and not being able to play at all because your hand would hurt. Okay? So that's about wrist position. Now, this hand has the risk of wrong wrist position as well. For example, I know some players who do this when they finger pick. Okay? When they finger pick, they play like this, and that's wrong. You want to keep your hand as straight as possible. Also here, okay? Check out this hand. Okay, also in picking with a pick. Okay, with a pick. There's no pick in my hand right now, but I know people who pick like this. And again, the wrist, wrong. You want to keep your hand as straight as possible and just use your movement from the wrist and from your elbow and your shoulder. Because if you have your wrist like this, you can't move your hand. And you want your hand to be moving freely. Okay? And this hand as well. And you can also stretch a little before you begin playing and just use your fingers and I don't know, and do this and this. But it's unnecessary if you're playing correctly. Okay? But if your hand hurts, stop playing. That's the rule. If your hand hurts, doesn't matter if it's muscle pain, stop playing. Okay? Give your hands some rest. But we're going to talk about that later on. So we've taken care of the wrist. Okay, number 3. Using one finger for soloing. I know a lot of people, a lot of students who have a hard time with the concept of using more than one finger. For example, if they want to solo, they do this. And that's just using too much energy for something that could be a lot more simple. Okay, you're wasting energy. If you have a hard time getting used to using 4 fingers, okay, then just use 2. If you use 2 fingers, that's already better than using 1 finger, because 2 fingers can enable you to play almost anything if you put your mind to it. Using fingers 1 and 2. Okay? That already sounds better than 1 finger. Using fingers 1 and 3. Okay, I also used finger 2 because I'm already too used to it. But you can use fingers 1 and 3 or 1 and 2. Always try and use more than 1 finger. You don't have to use your pinky if you're still not used to it, but at least use fingers 1 and 2. Okay? Because you can't hammer on with 1 finger. You can do this. Okay? You can slide, but you can't hammer on. And you can pull up, and you can't pull off. Okay, again, you can slide, but you can't pull off. Okay, and you can do this, a slide forward and backwards, but you can't hammer on and pull off. And that's only 1 fret away, only 1 fret apart, a half step. What happens when you have a full step? Okay, 2 frets. You can't do anything with that, because if you slide, it will sound like a slide. Okay, for example, you can do this. And you want to, because you want to have the entire arsenal of embellishments in your bag of tricks. So just use 2 fingers instead of all 4 of them. If it's too difficult for you to get used to all 4 of them, or the pinky, just use fingers 1, 2, and 3. That's all, these fingers. Okay, and work your way up to using all of them. And that's it. That takes care of, I didn't tell you why this is so important. What kind of teacher am I? It's important because if you use one finger, you need to stop the note every time you want to go to another note. Okay? This sounds fine, but if you use 2 fingers, okay, only one more finger, then you can lengthen the notes. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the notes on the one finger solo were really, really short. They were like da 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 instead of da 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 da. Okay, I didn't really have a choice because every time I wanted to change a note, I had to stop the note I was playing, move my hand around, and pick another note instead of playing the note and then changing a finger just in time for the next note. Just listen to this. Opposed to one finger. Okay, I have no hammer-on and pull-off option, only a slide option. That's why you want to get used to playing with at least 2 fingers right from the start. Okay? Hope that's clear. You can do amazing solos with one finger, but why? Why limit yourself? If you want to play with one finger, play with one finger, but know how to play with more than one finger. Okay? That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is arching your fingers. Correctly arching your fingers for pressing down the strings and not interrupting other fingers. This is tricky for 2 reasons. Sometimes you do want to interrupt other strings, and sometimes you need to bar. So, how do you know which way to arch? It all depends on what you want to get out of the guitar. For example, the correct way of arching is this. Let's just put on one finger, okay? It's this. You want to play with the top of your finger, right? Like about I don't know, half an inch from the fingernail, right here. Okay, this part of the hand, this part. Okay, the top of your finger. Okay, you want to play. Let's say I'm playing the 3rd string. Okay, I want to arch my finger so it won't touch the 2nd string or the 4th string. Okay, 2nd string is open, 3rd string is pressed, and 4th string is open. Okay, let's just use the 2nd fret. Okay, you see all 3 strings are playing at the same time. Open 2nd and 4th strings, and I'm pressing down the 3rd string, and I'm arching my finger so it doesn't touch any of the other strings. But sometimes I do want to mute one of those strings, so I will rest my finger on them. I will arch my finger and just rest it. I'll take the wrist, I'll take the elbow back. I won't use my finger, I won't change my arching, and I'll take my elbow back so my fingers will touch, for example, the second string. Okay, so now we'll hear the 1st string. We won't hear the 2nd string because it's touching it. We'll hear the 3rd string and we'll hear the 4th string. Okay, you see? So we have strings 1, 3, and 4 ringing, and the 2nd string is muted. Okay, just by taking the elbow back a little. Okay. Now, if I want to bar, then just bar. Okay? But for example, if I want to bar, say, a B minor chord, okay, and I want to mute so this is barring and all of these are arching, okay, and I want to mute the E string, the E bass, so I'll just touch it lightly from underneath with the barring finger. Okay, if this is the E string and this is the barring finger, I'll just touch it. Okay, I won't press it up, I'll just touch it to mute it. So this is with the E string open, okay, and this is with the E string muted. You see? No E string. So if I pick, I mean strum, we don't hear the E string open. Okay, so those are the options, but you always want to arch. Okay, if you're not barring, then you're arching, and if you want to mute, just mute. Now, just take your elbow back or fourth if you want to mute the upper string. I mean lower in pitch, but upper physically. Then just take your hand a bit forward. Another thing to remember, I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, another thing to remember is if you want to bar, let's say, two fingers, two frets. For example, if we're doing this, okay, so we're either barring this completely and barring strings 2, 3, and 4 for the A shape, and we're either muting because this is not barring all the way through. We're either muting the E string or lifting or pushing the oh, by the way, I hope you're noticing that I'm using wrong wrist position because I'm exaggerating. I want you to see the exaggeration. But my wrist is wrong and it hurts, by the way, so I'm stopping. But I just want to show you that if I move my elbow fourth and I lift my barring finger, my second barring finger, just a little, then we're gonna hear the E string. Okay, that's a more advanced technique. I just wanted to show you everything about arching that I could think of. Okay, but the most basic thing is that you wanna press with the top of your finger and just arch the fingers and let everything else be open. For example, let's just put on this chord. Okay, it's D7, add 9 over A, doesn't matter. Okay, just I picked it to show you that the E string is open even though I'm playing 3 different strings above it. Okay, and the A string is open as well. And if I wanted the E string, then I'd mute the A string with this finger from below. Okay? Okay, you see? And no A string because this finger is touching it. Okay? That's what I was talking about. Alright, so that's 4. Arching. Now, 5. Number 5, I've left this for last because it's partly psychological. Strumming and picking too lightly or too strongly. What do I mean? I mean that sometimes beginner guitar players are insecure. So they either lower the volume on their playing and they just play so no one else could hear them, or they are afraid they'll break a string, or they play really loud. Okay? And that kind of suffocates the sound. Now, I'm not talking about dynamics here at all. I know that there's dynamics and you need to play with low volume and with high volume, and you need to strum, and sometimes you do want to play like this, but we're not talking about dynamics. We're talking about beginner playing. Okay, you want to produce a fair sound. I think I got my guitar out of tune. Never mind. This is not a sound lesson. So, okay, you want to produce a sound. So just play it. You don't. Some players will play this like this. Okay, and they'll be afraid of playing louder so their parents would hear them, or their brothers and sisters would hear them, or their friends. They don't want anybody to hear them playing, okay? So they play really low key, okay? Why? Just play your guitar. Be free, just enjoy, and even if the strings buzz, still enjoy your playing. What does it matter? Don't care about sound, okay? Just care about having fun, okay? On the other hand, there are those that will play like this, okay, and will hit the strings. Now again, I'm not talking about dynamics. I'm talking about thinking that nobody hears you and that nobody notices that you're playing, so you play really loud so they'll notice. And if you solo, then you'll solo like this. Okay? Again, when you want dynamics and you want to produce that sound, then it's okay. Okay? For example. Okay? I can't think of an example right now, but if I really get into it, then let's try. Okay, you see, I tried to come up with a lick that would justify slapping the notes. Okay, so you see, that's dynamics. But if that's not your intention and you just want someone to hear you play and show off that you started learning the guitar, then you might break a string, because there's a difference between using correct dynamics and just slapping the string correctly than just playing really, really loud. And trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I was the loud kind. So I broke tons of strings. So unless you have an endorsement behind you and you have a string company endorsing you and just delivering you with new strings every time you break one, then I suggest you'd be a little more careful and just, play a little lower in volume. But again, it goes both ways. The guitar beginner insecurity might go to playing. Okay, did you hear that? I nearly haven't heard it. To this. Okay, and that chokes the sound and nobody can hear what you're playing. Okay, so just, you want to go? Go. Okay, so that's about taking care of the strings and proper volume for practicing. Okay, now so let's recap. We had string buzzing, middle to the end of the fret. We had wrist position. Don't do this. Always try to keep your hand as straight as possible. Also this hand. We've had playing with more than one finger, at least two. Arching your fingers and just tilting your hand a little to forward and backwards to mute unnecessary strings or strings you want to mute. And we've had strumming. We've had strumming and picking without considering dynamics yet. Okay, now we're off to the important part, the psychological setbacks. Now, the first psychological setback, mistake/obstacle number 6, is comparing yourself to other players. Okay? And the biggest mistake you can make is to compare yourself to a professional player. Okay? If you compare yourself to Slash, or The Edge, or Eric Clapton, or Greg Howe, then of course you're gonna be frustrated and you're gonna give up really, really fast. Because, let's face it, chances are none of us is going to sound like Eric Clapton. Ever. Okay? And Well, we can sound like Eric Clapton, and we can sound like Slash, and we can imitate their playing, but why should we? If you think about it for a second, why do you want to be unoriginal? You want to be influenced by many different styles and many different players, okay? So don't compare yourself, first of all, don't compare yourself to any player, okay? Not even people you know. If you compare yourself to your cousin or your friend who's been playing for a year or two and you're just starting out, then of course you're still not gonna sound as good as they are. And as far as you're concerned, as far as you know, if you keep practicing and have patience, you might even grow to be a better guitar player than the people that you know and that you admire. And you have no idea where you'll go with your style. For example, you might admire one of your friends who's playing fingerstyle, and you start playing fingerstyle because they're playing fingerstyle and you like it. But you're growing tired of fingerstyle eventually after a month or two, and you want to start playing blues, okay? So you're going in a different direction, and you never know which way your musical taste is going to take you. So never compare yourself to a different player because you have no idea what they've been through. You have no idea about their frustrations and who they've compared themselves to and how hard it's been for them. Okay, because there's a rule: the better a player is, the longer they practice and the harder road they've taken. Because, for example, there's a guitar player I really like, and he said he was asked once about a technique that he came up with. He invented that technique, and he said, well, I was so frustrated that I couldn't play like my idol that I came up with this cheat way of playing what he played, okay? The guy's idol played a certain way and my idol couldn't imitate that, so he came up with something new, okay? So for him, that was a failure, but he came up with a new technique. So I hope you see what I'm getting at. Don't compare yourself to others because you have no idea what they've been through. Okay, you have no idea, and in their mind, they still have a long way to go too. We all do. Okay. For example, I personally know a jazz guitar legend, and he personally told me that every week he's still learning a new composition and a new piece, and he's still going. He's 60 years old and he's still going to a teacher. He's still going to a guitar teacher to teach him stuff that he doesn't know, to teach him new techniques and to teach him new styles that he still hadn't mastered on the guitar. Okay? You never stop learning music. So never compare yourself to another player. You have no idea what they're going through. Okay? Just take your time, have fun. That's the most important thing. Okay? Psychological setback number 2, okay? Mistake/obstacle number 7 is assuming that you suck. Okay? I see a lot of students get really hard on themselves. And they say, no, I'm not doing this correctly, and I need more practice, and my chords suck, my solos suck, my improvisation sucks, my finger picking sucks, I can't hold the pick correctly. And quite frankly, I have no idea what they're talking about, because they're playing great. And most of the time, you think, and it comes from comparing yourself to other players. Because you see them and it looks so easy when they do it that you think, oh, I still find it hard, so I must suck. And that's not necessarily true. And I see it mostly, unfortunately, I see it mostly with female students. And they mostly play better than the boys, and they learn quicker than the boys, but they're sure that they suck, and that they don't play correctly, and that their technique is off, and that their sound is off, and that the guitar is always out of tune, and and nothing is wrong. And boys also have the same problem. They're sure that they suck and that they don't remember anything and that the chords are wrong and that something is off and the scales are wrong and they don't remember the scale and they have to check the notebook. What's the rush? Have fun. Have fun. You have nobody watching over your shoulder and saying, no, you need to be better. Oh, that string buzzed. You must suck. Nobody's saying that. Okay? People want to enjoy your music no matter if the chord sounds 100% correct. Okay? If you play an A minor chord and it sounds like this. Okay? People won't crucify you for it. Okay? Just keep getting better and just have patience and have fun with your playing. Even if you suck, it doesn't matter if you suck, because that's what practicing is all about. You'll get better, and one day you'll wake up and you'll find yourself playing something that will blow your mind, and you'll say, wait a second, I couldn't play that a month ago. But it will never happen if you keep saying, I suck, I suck, I suck, because you're gonna give up. And that's sometimes what happens. Okay, it happens about 75% of the time, unfortunately. No matter, sometimes I take my phone and I record them while they play, and about a week or two later I'll play for them and they'll say, oh, that's nice, who's that? And I say, that's you. And they don't believe me. They think I'm lying, because they listen to themselves play and they think they suck, so it can't be that player because that player is good. And sometimes they still don't believe me that it's them. So don't assume that you suck. Don't compare yourself to others. Just have fun. Okay? Now, the third psychological setback is that you don't have enough patience. What do I mean by that? I don't mean that you need to have patience and just wait until something happens. No. There are instances. No, let's put it differently. Every beginner guitar player is better at something different. Okay? There are beginner players who are better at chords, and there are beginner players who are really, really good and improvising solos. And I've had a 7-year-old student who could improvise an electric guitar solo you wouldn't believe. Okay? It almost made me give up playing because he was so good. But he had problems with chords and he had problems with finger picking, and so everyone has their own problems. But everyone has their own advantages, because some players are better with chords right away. Some players are better with scales and solos right away. Some players are better with compositions and finger style. Some players are really good with a pick. Some players hate the pick. Some players find barred chords really difficult. Some players have their way with barred chords right away. The problem is that you need to have patience for everything else that you're not good at. Okay? Because you see yourself playing, oh, the solos are really easy, so why don't the chords sound right? Because chords should be easier than solos, right? No, not right. Everyone is an individual, and for each their own way of learning and practicing. So you need to have patience and just let everything grow. If you play, for example, if your chord playing is this good and your solo playing is this good, then just keep playing chords and learn how to play solo and practice until they're both at the same level. And who says that they need to be at the same level? Not all guitar players play everything. There are solo players, there are chord players, there are backup players, there are lead men. So you don't have to play everything right, especially when you just start out. Okay, so have patience. It doesn't have to sound right at the beginning. Okay, and what I like to tell people is that you can learn a song or a solo, and you can play it about 50%, 60% right, and then move on to the next thing and learn something else. And then when you come back to that solo, you'll find that you've become a little bit better by learning more, that now the solo that you tried to play and was so difficult at first will be a little easier because you got used to it, and you've played something different as well. I hope you're following my own logic, because if you try to play this, okay, and you couldn't play it correctly, but you moved on and you've practiced it, and you've also played this. Okay? And then about a month later you come back to this. Okay? You find that it's a bit easier because you've practiced this. Okay? Everything affects everything, okay? The chords affect your solos, and your solos affect the chords, and everything together affect your ears, and you hear better, and you have more musical ideas. So just have patience, and don't be hard on yourself if you don't succeed at first. If you haven't succeeded at something at first, it doesn't mean that as you progress, you won't be able to play it forever. Okay? You'll just come back to it and play it when you're a little bit better. That's it. Okay, now another thing about patience is muscle memory. And that's probably the most important aspect of guitar playing in general. Sometimes your fingers don't do what you're telling them to do because they're not used to it yet. And you keep practicing and you fail. Doesn't sound right. And then you say, okay, I can't do that lick, or I can't do that solo, or I can't play that chord progression. And you move on. And then one day you come back and you play that chord progression or solo perfectly without even practicing it. Why? Because the muscles take time to remember things. They take time to implement new things. And if you, there's a trick that if, for example, you want to learn a new lick, for example, this. Okay? You want to learn this lick, but you can't because the finger picking is too complex for you yet. And you play it really, really slowly, and it doesn't make sense because sometimes when finger picking is played slowly, it doesn't make sense. Okay, something like that. Okay, I was trying to not make sense on purpose. It doesn't make sense. You get frustrated. You go to sleep. You wake up, you take the guitar, and suddenly you're playing this. Why? What happened? You slept, and you let your muscles memorize what you were playing. Okay, it's really important to take a break and let your muscles work it through. I have a trick that I teach my students. If you practice something and it doesn't work, play something else. Play something else. Play something that you already know. And then come back and practice some more, and it will go a little better. And then leave the guitar, go to sleep, go do something else, and then the next day take your guitar and practice, and you'll see that you've grown a bit better and that it goes a little bit easier because you need to let the muscles memorize what you've just learned. Okay? So that's number 8. Now, number 9 is trying to practice everything together. okay? You want to learn the entire Another Brick in the Wall solo. That's a mistake. You want to break it down. You want to break it down, you want to learn it lick by lick. Just learn one lick, okay? Learn one lick. Okay, just focus on that. Play that for a week if you need to. And only then move on to the next licks and work your way up. Don't try and play the whole solo at first, because then you'll be overwhelmed and you'll think, oh man, I must suck. No, that's not true. I've been playing for 20 years now, and I still come up to a new composition or a new solo I want to learn, and I just go over it, and I never succeed on the first try. I'll start breaking it down lick by lick and learn it slowly, methodically. Just break it down. What's the rush? Have fun. Again, you have nobody watching over your shoulder and saying, oh, you're just playing that lick? Why don't you play the entire solo? Okay, and if you have somebody like that, just tell them to, I don't know, go do something to themselves. Because there's no rush. And the slower you go at first, the faster you're gonna go eventually. Okay? A slow start doesn't necessarily mean a slow road, because sometimes you just need time to warm up. Okay, so whenever you learn something, just break it down to the smallest pieces you can digest. If you can't play this, then break it down to 3 different licks. Break it down to this. Okay, that's the first lick. And then the second lick. Okay? Until you get it down. And then that. Okay, until you get it. Doesn't work. Until you get it right. Okay? And then work on getting them together. Okay? First and second licks. And when that's comfortable, add the third lick. Okay? Break it down. What's the rush? Have patience. As you see, the psychological setbacks work together. Okay? They tend to come in groups. Now, the last one, number 10. Mistake/obstacle number 10, psychological obstacle number 5. Playing perfectly. I think we've covered that, but it has to do with a different aspect of playing perfectly. Many of us, artists, musicians, tend to be perfectionists. If it's not perfect, then it's not good. Well, that's not true, because if you listen to the really great guitar players, their playing wasn't perfect. Their playing wasn't perfect at all. It was dirty. It was offbeat. Sometimes the guitar was a bit out of tune. And that's the magic of it. Sometimes the strings buzzed. And that's the beauty of it. Guitar playing, music shouldn't be perfect. It shouldn't sit on the beat like a metronome. It can be a bit off the beat. That's the beauty of it. The instruments shouldn't sit together. It's not electronic music. It's not digital music. It's not a drum machine. If you put a drummer with a drum machine, you'll see that the drummer that feels the music is always a bit off of the drum machine. A little bit off of the metronome. The drummer that sits perfectly isn't interesting, because if the drums fall exactly on the beat, then what different is that drummer from a drum machine? Okay? The human aspect of music is the imperfectness, okay? It's the small mistakes in sound. It's the small, it's the offbeat. It's the dirt. For example, a lot of players, if you've ever listened to John Scofield, he really likes to dirty up the playing. He might do something like this, okay, and push the string off of the guitar neck. Now on acoustic it doesn't work, but on electric guitar it produces a sound. And for example, there are some players who use this as an effect, and some players use this. Okay, and it all depends on what you want to say with your music. So perfect isn't perfect, okay? If you want to play perfectly, then you should ask yourself if you're on the right instrument, because part of the magic is the dirt, part of the magic is the string buzzing, and part of the magic is hearing this when you move between chords. Okay? You hear, yeah, the guitar is really out of tune by now with all those demonstrations. So you might oil your strings or buy flat wound strings so you won't hear the slide, but some people like it, and some people listen to acoustic music just for this, just to hear the fingers slide on the strings, and that's not perfect. That's a noise. It shouldn't be there, or should it? Okay, so don't be a perfectionist. Try to find your own way of dirtying things up. Okay? There's an 11th point I wanted to make, a bonus point. That's more of an advice than a mistake or obstacle. Okay, my advice is take risks. Okay, take risks. Play something that shouldn't sound right. Try and change something in your playing. Try and pick with a coin instead of a pick and see how that sounds. And above all, try to play above your level. And try to play more difficult stuff than stuff that's more difficult than what you're playing right now. Okay, for example, if you're learning an acoustic solo, then try to play an electric solo on your acoustic guitar. Try to learn, for example, if you're playing the Wish You Were Here solo, okay? Try to learn the Another Brick in the Wall solo and play it on your acoustic guitar and try and see how that sounds. Okay, you might come up with something really interesting and challenge yourself at the same time. And if the Wish You Were Here solo is a bit difficult for you right now, then the Another Brick in the Wall solo would be very difficult, but it will make the Wish You Were Here solo a bit easier, because you'll try more difficult things and suddenly your fingers will feel a little more comfortable on the acoustic solo. Okay, so challenge yourself. Try to push yourself forward and try to play things that you shouldn't play yet, because there's no such thing. And even if you fail and don't succeed in playing it, your fingers will still learn something new along the way. Okay, they'll still pick up something. You might not even notice it at first, but in time those little somethings will add up and become your own style. Okay, so just challenge yourself and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of playing imperfectly and making mistakes, and take your time and enjoy your playing. So that's it for this video. I hope that it was helpful for you, and I hope that you took something from this video. And thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then you're more than welcome to it. Click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next lesson. And go have fun and have patience. Bye for now.